All right, everybody. No intro today. I'm a YouTuber, so if you want to support me in any way you want, feel free to. I don't really care. I have more important things to talk about and more important things on my mind, like the absolutely dismal performance that Liverpool just gave at Old Trafford. I honestly haven't seen a performance this bad under Jurgen Klopp. Period. Full stop. This was the worst Liverpool performance under Klopp, totally. From Klopp's starting 11 to his decisions. Let me rewind. Let's just start with the game. So, preceding this game, there was a lot of protests regarding Glazers out. Man United really wanted to send a message to the Glazers. The Glazers bought Casemiro as like a form of appeasement. That's quite clear, but quality signing, so we'll see how he goes on for them. But none of this is about the Glazers. None of this is about Casemiro. None of this is about really anything besides the fact that Liverpool were shit. Yes, we were bloody awful. It was terrible. Fully awful. I think that we could start with a few points of contention with Liverpool, but I'm first just going to quickly say what I saw in United's side to keep it fair and non-biased that I thought was really good. I think that Rafael Varane, I'm sorry to the rest of the league, by the way, because this performance between Varane and Martinez, I don't think Maguire starts again for United. I wouldn't start him if I was Eric Ten Hag because you clearly don't need him and he makes you a worse team. If Maguire played today, honestly, we might have won just because Varane and Martinez are that much better of center backs than Harry Maguire. Regardless, Tyrell Malacia also had an unbelievable game. Just had Salah in his back pocket for the majority of the game besides the goal he scored, but that was off a set piece, so who cares? I think that Marcus Rashford played pretty good. He had, a solid goal. He had a few chances he could have buried as well. I thought he was offside, personally. I didn't really love the super zoomed in, 144p rendition of it for the VAR. I thought he was offside even after they drew the lines and whatever, but honestly, I don't know. There's no reason to line up any of these excuses about Liverpool because, quite frankly, Liverpool was just not good enough today against Manchester United, who lost to Brentford. You could see how just all over the place I am. I'm fuming. I'm absolutely fuming, and I'm doing my best not to get too rowdy, not to say anything too crazy, but I will say my piece on exactly the problems with Liverpool because, quite frankly, there is a whole lot of problems. So Liverpool, obviously, are in a bit of an injury crisis, and that's all well and good, and that has its own issues. Obviously, you can't really control if a player is going to be fit. In certain situations, there's been a lot of players who came from the summer with their international teams, playing in the Nations Leagues, playing in friendlies, the preseason, all that, and that builds up. But Liverpool has 10 or something senior players out, so that doesn't help. And I heard rumors that Fabinho wasn't fully fit. He did play today off the bench, but I just have to ask Jurgen Klopp, why on earth does he choose to proceed with Harvey Elliott, James Milner, and Jordan Henderson in midfield? Please tell me what on earth possessed him to do that. Because you could have had Fabinho start and taken him off at halftime or after 60 minutes. But quite frankly, he didn't. And I don't know. I think that was the first misstep. To be quite honest, Liverpool absolutely, desperately needs it's not a desire anymore. It is an absolute necessity. If we want to get top 4 this season, we need another midfielder. I may be seeming a little fatalistic to some, but year in, year out, FSG has this model where they think that they could just buy piecemeal, player here, player there, without really revolutionizing the squad. And I understand that this isn't a Liverpool squad that is too far away from the top when fully fit. I agree with that. But even when fully fit, the likes of Naby Keita, Jordan Henderson, Thiago, Ox, 4 midfielders, 4 outfield players who are notoriously injury prone and can't really play a full season without picking up at least 1, 2, 3 knocks, reoccurring knocks at that. And then James Milner, who's 37, 38, I forget how old James Milner is. You can't really even slate James Milner that bad. He is so old, and I get the leadership that he possesses and the history he has against Manchester United. I see the relevance of having him in a fixture like this, and I think he played to the best of his abilities, but quite frankly, he is 37. That is no age to be playing in the center of the park, away from home, against Manchester United in a tense must-win fixture. Like, we needed to win today. City drew, and we lost to a United side that we spanked 9-0 on aggregate last season. That should just tell you about the direction of both clubs, where they're currently heading. And you could say, well, Darwin, if he was in, if he didn't get that red card, none of that suffices for me at this point. The only thing I could think of is how can Liverpool, before the end of the transfer window, bring an adequate backup, not Naby Keita, not Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, not James Milner. These are players who, when fit, yeah, they can contribute sometimes. Keita, when he's fit, is awesome. But let's look at the Keita situation. He apparently is injured, and that came out through James Pearce and Dominic King type sources. I don't know where I saw it exactly. Maybe Paul Joyce. But Keita was reported not fully fit before the match, which is weird because usually the official Liverpool account will say something about an injury. There wasn't any of that. It went through the mouthpieces, which tells me that Naby Keita doesn't want to agree to the terms that Liverpool are providing to extend past the end of the season. And there's so many wrong things that I just said in that statement, in the sense of what are Liverpool even thinking at this moment? Because as opposed to Liverpool at the beginning of the transfer window saying, okay, let's look at what we got. Let's try to shift on Naby Keita and Ox, who are clearly not fit enough to continue playing in this intense squad. They pick up too many knocks. We already have Henderson, Thiago, and even Milner sometimes because of his age, who are injury prone. We shouldn't have any more midfielders that are consistently injury prone. They decide, okay, we're going to extend Keita, a guy who's been a £50 million flop, who literally can't play more. And Keita refuses the extension. Why, you might ask? Because Naby Keita allegedly wants to play more. Well, the issue, Naby lad, is that when you want to play more, you should probably try to stay fit. And I understand he's one of the best players for his national team, and he gets a lot of game time over there, and that means a lot to him, and that's well and good. But quite frankly, Liverpool is bigger than that at this point. We are bigger than having to beg players to want to play for us or to extend. Naby Keita should have been shipped off last January when he wasn't being able to string together a form of fitness to save his life, quite frankly. And I'm just honestly disgusted by the thought of him extending past the end of this season to go on without us even factoring in the fact that we should get a midfielder regardless of if he stays or if he goes. He could stay even. Just buy a midfielder because he's clearly not going to be fit to play for us. Keita, that is. And then let's look at Mane. Mane has 3 goals in 3 games for Bayern in the league. And quite frankly, it seems quite obvious that Liverpool made a massive error in selling Sadio Mane. And all I have to say to that is the fact that, we really dropped the ball on Mane. Not only did we let Takumi Minamino and Origi go this summer, 2 players who provided us enormous amounts of depth going forward, we let go of our literally, arguably our second best striker, forward, whatever you want to call it, attacker, for the last decade. And the reasoning behind that was, well, we need to be able to sell Mane so that we can raise funds to sign Nunez. And I think that's a just absolute crock of shit. quite frankly, I don't think they needed to. I don't think that they wanted to. I think that they literally just thought, oh, well, Mane might walk at the end of the season, which means we're not going to get him for free. Like we're not going to get a fee for him, rather. Sorry. I'm fuming. But in the case of Mane, the quality of player he was, what he's done for this club, what he's meant for this club, what he's done for the community around Liverpool, he deserved to go on a free if he really wanted to leave us. We should have held on to him for one more year and let him walk for a free if we were going to let him go. Quite frankly, if he wasn't going to extend with us, if we weren't willing to give him a Salah-sized contract and extend him, then we should have let him walk on a free and still brought in Nunez. That's how a big club functions. Not selling your best player year in, year out, just letting people go on frees for no reason. You let Jorginho Wijnaldum walk on a free, who is arguably the architect behind our Barcelona comeback. Just absolute beam and ball of energy when he came onto the pitch against Barcelona. And they let him walk. And by the way, just an aside, it's absolutely devastating to see Gini Wijnaldum, a player who is just constantly so fit and never injured, to pick up such a bad injury like the broken tibia he did at Roma practice. All the Roma players seem really sad for him, and I think that it's just overall distressing because he's going to miss his last World Cup most likely, and I don't think a player his caliber deserves that. I mean, nobody deserves a broken tibia as a professional football player, but in Wijnaldum's case, the lost potential that he could have had with us to play another 2-3 seasons at least, he would have been fit as opposed to Keita. He would have been playing those games. He would have been on better form. If you had Thiago alongside Wijnaldum and Fabinho, that's the best midfield in the world at the time if Wijnaldum stayed. But the board has their magical tactical transfer strategy that they have down to a science, allegedly. But they clearly don't have the data and the science to be able to understand our players' true fitness level so that they don't run them into the ground in training and in matches. And then, in today's game, it was just shambolic. Now that I'm done ranting about our recruitment and transfer strategy, I'm just going to look at the actual game today. Trent, mate, you need to, stop just trying to ping the ball constantly. As soon as you get the ball, you got to send a long ball somewhere where it's going nowhere. I must have seen the ball just ping straight into Martinez's head at least 30 or 40 times today. It was bloody horrific. And then defensively, he's walking on the first goal. If you go back and you watch the first goal, you'll see Trent, and he's casually jogging. And don't think that means just because Trent had an absolute stinker of a game that I'm not going to stop with Virgil, because Virgil van Dijk had the worst game in a Liverpool shirt to date. He was fully disinterested. He blocked Alisson's view of the ball, just stood there with his hands behind his back. What are you doing? You want to be the best center back in the world, and you're getting absolutely rinsed by a team you beat 9-0 on aggregate last season? That's just terrible. That is inexcusable. Our midfield was like watching a hostage of your toddler on live stream. I couldn't do anything. I was frozen there watching Henderson, Milner, and Elliott just trying to do something, and they would just waywardly pass the ball to the side or just retain possession for no reason. We had 374 passes to United's 170 in the first half. And that, it just breaks my brain knowing that we were absolutely outclassed by United's side. And I have to give credit to Erik ten Hag. He outplayed us. They played us off the park fully. Yeah, we got a goal. Cool. We applied pressure at the end. And to all the Liverpool fans who disagree with whatever I'm saying, why did it take until the 88th, 86th, 87th minute, or after we scored the goal or whatever, to actually start carrying this game? Why did it take those players so long? Why did Klopp, time to dig into Jurgen. I'm sorry, Jurgen, you've done a lot for this club. You really and truly have. But I got to call it how I see it. And Jurgen was complaining for seasons about, fixture congestion, this, we don't have, our players can't get rested enough. And then guess what he does? He decides 2-0 down against one of our biggest rivals in the league in a must-win, do-or-die game. You know what? I'm going to wait until the 60th minute to bring on Fabinho, who's arguably our best midfielder. That's fit at least right now, because God knows Liverpool midfielders never stay fit. So he waits until the 60th minute to bring on Fabinho, and then waits another 10 minutes to bring on Carvalho, and another 10 minutes to bring on Tsimikas. Another thing that really just bothered me this game was the fact that, at least in the first half, because towards the second half, I was like watching with my like palms covering my face because it was so embarrassing. But in the first half, there were so many moments where Roberto Firmino would drop so deep into midfield, and we'd see Milner like doing an overlapping run. Why on earth is James Milner, a guy who, yeah, he has all the stamina in the world. Yeah, he's Mr. Blue Steel, whatever. He is not made to go forward. That is clear. He couldn't cross the ball. He couldn't pass the ball. He couldn't shoot the ball. He won some second balls. And Henderson was even worse. Henderson looked like an absolute shell of himself. And it's quite honestly telling as to where Liverpool stands. We're too afraid and too cowardly to make bold moves in the market that will actually have an impact on our season. As opposed to doing that, what we do is we sell all our best players, tear down the team, and then we bring in players who might fit the system. Yeah, I am in full support of Nunez. I want him to be a quality player for us, and I understand he's got a lot of pressure, but this gives him more pressure coming back from that red card with us having 2 points from 9 in our first 3 games. That is real pressure, and I don't know if Nunez will thrive under that. I hope he does, but quite frankly, bringing in a player who's a record transfer fee, who's technically unproven in this league, and getting rid of the most proven player in our squad in the Premier League in Sadio Mane, it's going to have some repercussions, and we're now seeing the cracks. And quite frankly, if FSG doesn't respond from this, if they don't actually go out, bring in a Moises Caicedo, bring in somebody, anybody. I'll take Boris Johnson at center mid at this point. He's out of a job, right? I'll take anybody. But no, FSG is just going to do whatever. They're going to roll out their traditional PR, and we're not going to get any new signings. And quite frankly, this team will be lagging until we can slowly integrate players back into the starting 11 like Matip, Thiago, and Jota. And even then, it's going to take some games to fully phase them in. And I just am at a loss for words, really. I had a feeling before the game that Liverpool wasn't going to do all too well. I know I predicted last week that was a 2-1 victory for Liverpool, but I was being cautiously optimistic after the Brentford game. I guess that wasn't good enough because, quite frankly, we played awful. We played fully awful. We deserved to lose. United was class. They were extremely cringe, though, I will say. I mean, just like I could sit here and be sour, but the turnaround I've seen from United fans of like, Glazers out. And now they signed Casemiro and beat us. And it's like, they're just like jovial, man. And I mean, hey, like I get it. You're over the moon. You finally beat us for the first time in 4.5 years. It's actually like a really big accomplishment for your club. I get it. But quite frankly, this is not good enough from Liverpool. If we proceed this way, if we don't sign any reinforcements, if it continues on like this, I don't see us competing for top 4. I quite frankly don't. Because at this point, I would argue that City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham are well ahead of us in terms of preparation for this season, in terms of quality and depth, in terms of quality of starting 11. At this point, Liverpool is a full-on exoskeleton of what we used to be. We simply just look awful. There's nothing else to say. It's inexcusable. It's embarrassing to go from 9-0 last season to this. And hear me out. I get that it might come off as bitter it might come off as ungrateful, but you have to really look at some of these decisions they made and just how many bad missteps it's taken to get to this point. We let Wijnaldum walk. Yeah, he has a broken leg now, but if he stayed with us, he probably wouldn't have broken his leg and would have been one of the best midfielders in the Prem. A lot of things could have gone different with that. Mane sold for effectively pennies. I mean, 30 mil realistically for Liverpool isn't all that much money. So we sold him for very little when we could have kept him for a year, realistically. If Mane wanted to go this summer, I get it. But Mane is also a smart guy who realizes if I walk on a free, I'm going to get a big payday. But FSG has too much of an ego to realize just how vital Sadio Mane was to that team. He was the heartbeat. Everybody had their eyes on Firmino, and I get that because Firmino, Salah, and Mane were just quite frankly perfect. They're made to play together. But this squad is fully it's dilapidated. It's not balanced. It's just questionable. And quite frankly, I could sit here and say, well, look at all these positives of how United played, how they proceeded in the game, this and that. But quite frankly, United did not win this game. Liverpool fully lost it for themselves. This was just dreadful. Van Dijk just standing about 10 feet, 20 feet away from Sancho while he's dancing, letting James Milner slide across the goal was embarrassing. Trent jogging on that goal was embarrassing. Joe Gomez's distribution at times this game was embarrassing. It was fully awful. Harvey Elliott, love him to death, want him to succeed at the club, but he's not a midfielder, Klopp. He knows that, but he doesn't have any options. And I think that's quite honestly the worst part about this. Because if Elliott was playing in the position that he deserves to play in, he would be playing literally as a substitute for Salah. So Salah could rest once in a while, for God's sakes. But no, with the way that the club's set up now, we have to play Salah every minute. We have to play Diaz every minute. And our midfield is literally not even championship level at this point. It's awful. Running that midfield today was terrible. I don't care about the injuries or this or that and their decisions about the right fit, quote unquote. There is no right fit when you guys are in a situation this dire. When 2 to 4 of your rotational midfielders are picking up injuries every other month, that is a time for concern. The time for concern was a year and a half ago when Wijnaldum went on a free. It was before that even. When Wijnaldum was still here, we were looking for midfield depth, and we didn't get it. And we got, instead, Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's been injured so much, and Keita, who's been injured so much, and now is going to walk on a free. So, if we don't sell Keita, apparently FSG say we're not going to get anybody in midfield. But realistically, if we sell Keita, we should bring in 2 midfielders. But what do I know? I'm just a guy behind a computer screen. Apparently, these billionaires know a lot better than me. So, credit to them, because they're clearly not going to back the club in this summer transfer window. They might wait till January to bring in somebody when it's too late or when we're in the heat of a top 5 push trying to compete for the Conference League qualification. But quite frankly, this was embarrassing. And it's going to be a bit on the full recap. I just needed to get this out because I knew it was going to be too long. I knew it was just going to be a full-on rant. I'm not even really going to edit this all that much. My soul and desire to want to even talk about this is just at a breaking point. I can't believe how unbelievably just dreadful of a watch that game was. I mean, if this isn't a wake-up call, I really don't know what is. And if FSG don't appropriately respond to this, then it's going to be a long season, and you're going to be getting a lot more videos like this where I just start descending deeper and deeper into madness, because after just that one, it's not even just that one game, let's be honest. I mean, this whole start to the season's been awful. The 2 draws to start the game or start the league season were just dreadful. And now this, we need to destroy Bournemouth next week. And quite frankly, with the way we're playing, I think we might get a 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 win if we're lucky. We'll probably draw that game. I don't know. I need answers as a Liverpool fan as to who thought that it'd be a good idea. Even financially speaking, it wasn't a good idea because of the repercussions that a bad season like this could have on the club. Like, if we don't qualify for Europe, do they realize just how bad that'll be for our long-term status as a big club? It'll be awful because Klopp's not here for much longer. We need to maximize his time here. And what are they doing? Not backing him. They're saying, oh yeah, he's a quality manager. He could figure out. Yeah, he's a quality manager. He could figure it out with the right players. The right players aren't James Milner against Manchester United away. They're not Harvey Elliott starting in the midfield week in, week out. It just simply isn't it. The answer was Sadio Mane was our best attacker towards the second half of last season when Mo just disappeared. Mane played his mind off. He literally was so good. He was arguably the best player in the world for that second half of the season. From AFCON to the end of the season, Mane was on fire. And they decided, oh yeah, like, I guess we need 30 mil for him. Yeah, you guys could have got more realistically, but at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about the personnel. And the fact is, our personnel at this point are inexperienced and not cut out to proceed, to have a successful season this year. And the club doesn't see that. It's honestly just terrible. Like, I get it. Maybe when Liverpool's fit, things can turn around. But this is inexcusable. FSG needs to bring in reinforcements this window. It isn't a desire of mine. It is a requirement. It is, and guess what? You bringing in those reinforcements aren't going to appease me. Because at the end of the day, we still have 35 games where we have to be goddamn near perfect if we want to win the league this season. So, honestly, I don't really know what else to say, but credit to United on that win. And Jurgen, FSG, all the boys, minus, I'll say, Tsimikas, Carvalho, Fabinho, because by the time they came in, the game was over. You can exclude them from this. And Carvalho did look really lively. Minus them and just them, I guess, I'm just going to say, you know what? I'll give it to Alisson, too. Alisson really couldn't do much because, he went one way on the first goal, and then Van Dijk just kind of stood there. So that's on Van Dijk, Gomez, and Trent. The first goal, I'd say. And then the second goal is on Trent again, and Gomez just getting rinsed. Van Dijk deserves a lot of blame, too. The most blame. He's supposed to be the most senior center back. He was moping around at times. So, quite honestly, I think Tsimikas, Fabinho, Carvalho, the subs, they don't deserve too much blame, and I don't think Alisson deserves too much blame. Everybody else should take a hard look in the mirror and just quite honestly think about what they were and what they've become, because this is just embarrassing. It's not something that, really wants to change you from a doubter into a believer, because if there was new Liverpool fans tuning into this or people who are interested in the club, that's the type of performance to turn you away from the club. That's lost revenue, and that hurts your bottom line. That's how the CEO should think. They should think, how can we sustain bringing in more people in this club, bringing in more supporters? No, instead they think about their checkbook and, oh, well, if we buy this player, then maybe it's because the Red Sox are shite this season too. I really don't know. But FSG, you guys need to swallow your pride, you need to swallow your ego, and go sign somebody. Sign somebody, for God's sake. Sign somebody quality. Sign somebody who will force people in our midfield to want to fight for their place. That's the issue. We don't have too much competition to the point where it's like, oh, you're going to lose your spot if you're not good enough. That's what it's turned into at United. No one's really safe at United, not for a good reason, for negative reasons, for the fact that they've been so bad for so long that Ten Hag wants to ship on some people, he wants to replace people, but nobody wants to buy them. With Liverpool, yeah, you could argue that a lot of our players are desirable, but if we go through a season like this, everybody's market value will go down, the club will devalue itself, and quite frankly, that's how the only way I could realistically get through to people who are, connected to banks like FSG. You need to realistically look at how this will impact you long-term financially, because I don't think that they even realize just the mistakes that they've made, letting Wijnaldum walk, letting Mane walk. I really don't know. I don't know what else to say from here. I'm just kind of waffling at this point. This is going to be a really sloppily edited video because, quite frankly, Liverpool as a club today did not show me a single morsel that deserves any more time than me just rambling here and letting all my feelings out. Because, quite frankly, as a fan of the club, I think that they need to stop hiding behind this facade that they're, these geniuses in the market and this squad composition's great. Squad composition is terrible because 10 of our senior players are out. Like, I get that there's fixture congestion. I get that they've been being played for a year and a half to 2 years. But quite frankly, that's just not good enough because Liverpool has been such an open team in terms of our back line for so many years. And once we do go through crises like this, which are seemingly more frequent under Klopp, for some reason, I mean, maybe it's the style of play. It really could well be that. I mean, we saw his burnout at Dortmund. But the way that's set up right now, this team's only going to continue to drive itself further and further into the ground. It is inexcusable, is unacceptable. FSG, please do something. Sign Moises Caicedo, and then go sign like Sonderberg or somebody. You could easily get those two guys, and that's a DM and a center mid you're getting right there. Sell Naby Keita or let him stay. I don't care. I don't care if you get money for him. Let him be a flop. He deserves to be a flop. We can't continue protecting Keita for much longer. That's what it's felt like, in press conferences. You have Klopp, like praising Keita for this and that. But quite frankly, the guy's so just injury prone that even when he does play, it is so negatively skewed towards the fact that he's injured all the time, and I just can't see anything besides that in him. It's just a walking injury is what Naby Keita is, and now he's trying to use this leverage against the club to get a longer term deal where he gets more game time. Like, bro, you aren't fit enough to get more game time. If you were, you'd be playing because we have an injury crisis, for God's sake. Yeah, I don't know. We need signings, or else we're not going to get top four. Simple as that. Mark my words. If we don't sign somebody, we're not getting top four. If we sign somebody, we might get top four. Yeah, that's about how I feel right now. And I'm Sideline Sedo. If you like the video, share, do what you will, support me. Till next time, stay gold.